What's up, everybody? Jaron Fritz, aka Fritz Visuals. I'm the creative director for Colorado State Athletics with multiple years of professional sports design and photography experience. And today, we're talking player treatments and sports design, how to turn your subject from flat and forgettable to bold and undeniable. This quick process leveled up my entire workflow. It took me years to dial in, but you'll have it down in just a few minutes. We're stripping it down to the essentials. One subject, white background, so you can focus on what really matters. And to make this super easy to follow, I've split this process into 4 simple parts. So let's get right into step 1, cutouts and smart objects. First, drop your image onto the canvas and size it however you like. Photoshop will automatically place it as a smart object, but here's the catch. It's actually a fake smart object. If you double click to edit it and hit save, it'll flatten and you'll lose the ability to make non-destructive edits. So here's what you need to do instead. Right click and convert it into a new smart object. Next, copy and paste the new smart object so you have 2 copies. Label the bottom one background and the top one player. Now we're going to double down. Take that player layer and convert it into another smart object. So now you've got a smart object inside of a smart object. Why do we do this? Because a single smart object can only handle so many adjustments before it starts limiting your control. By stacking smart objects, you can push your edits further without hitting that ceiling. But don't worry, I'll explain it more in depth later. But for now, click into the first smart object, then into the second, and this is where you'll cut out your subject. However you want to do it, just get it done. I use a polygonal lasso tool, it's quick and easy for me. Once you finish the cutout, save that smart object, jump back into level 1, save again, and just like that, you're back on your main canvas with a clean separation between the player and the background. With your layers set and your subject cut out, it's time to bring in the heat. Step 2 is all about camera raw filters. So what are we actually trying to achieve here? You're not going for something soft or photorealistic. You want something that stands out, strong highlights, defined shadows, and a look that's visually striking. It should grab attention, not try to blend in. With Camera Raw, there's no one-size-fits-all preset. Your adjustments will depend on the quality of lighting and photo that you're working with. That said, there are 4 go-to settings I almost always tweak: clarity, texture, sharpness, and noise reduction. These give me a solid foundation to help exaggerate the image in the best way possible. Once that's dialed in, I fine-tune the lighting based on the specific photo, but enough talk. Let's put some words into action. We're going 2 smart objects deep into our cutout player, head to filter, then camera raw filter. This window will look familiar if you've used Lightroom Classic, but if you live in Lightroom, you might need to rewire your brain just a little bit because here we are going to break some of the usual rules. I always start with the clarity slider. It boosts mid-tone contrast and gives the image a sharper, more defined look. For this one, I bump it up. Then I crank the texture. That pulls out all the fine details and gives the graphic that gritty impact. At this point, our player's starting to look a little grainy, so I like to soften that up with some noise reduction. But here's the thing, too much and it starts to look fake and plasticky, and too little, that graininess takes away from the image. It's all about finding that sweet spot, so I go back in and adjust the sharpness to ensure there's no detail lost. I liked where the edit was going so far, but I wanted to bring out some more of the detail, so I skipped touching the exposure and instead bumped up the shadows and whites to brighten things up. Now, earlier I mentioned stacking smart objects, and this is where that actually kicks in. As you saw, camera raw sliders have limits. You can only push things like clarity, texture, or contrast so far before they max out. Here's the workaround. Apply your first round of edits inside the second smart object, max them out if need be, then jump back into the first smart object and run another round of camera raw on top. That way you extend your range without flattening or losing flexibility. So after finishing my adjustments on the cutout layer, I hopped back into the first smart object and ran one final round of camera raw, touching just the core 4: clarity, texture, noise reduction, and sharpening. I bounced back into the original canvas to compare it with the background image, and what I set out to achieve was right there. Glossy, detailed, gritty in all the right places, harsh highlights, sharp shadows, but still clean and controlled. It demands attention, that look we're after, and I think we nailed step 2. Step 2 gave us that grit and detail. Now step 3 is all about finesse. Let's talk neural filters. This is a super quick step, but it makes quite a difference. We're using the JPEG artifact removal filter. It helps clean up any compression noise and smooth out the image just enough without losing all that edge that we built earlier. You can get this done in just 4 clicks. Start with filter, then neural filters. An array of options will pop up, but we're looking for JPEG artifacts removal layer under the restoration section. Toggle it on, set it to high, and you're good. As I flip back and forth between the before and after, you'll see the change is subtle, but it's crucial. It cleans up the image just enough to give it that final layer of polish without taking away any of the grit. The heavy lifting is done, the treatment is complete, but this next part is just as important as everything we've done so far, because how your player lives inside the design can make or break the entire graphic. Let's be real, your player's probably not living on a blank canvas, it's going into a full design with textures and overlays stacked on top, and if that part isn't handled right, all the work you just did doesn't hit the way it should. So when it comes to overlays and textures, whatever you're layering on top, your job is to make sure they enhance the subject, not overpower it. The real world application for this treatment we just built was our first round game day graphic for March Madness. And when we hop into that working file and toggle the overlays and textures on and off, you'll see exactly how it complements the subject instead of fighting it. The overlays are subtle, a few contrast tweaks, a soft green hue, and some printed paper textures to tie the whole thing together. Zooming out, I did the same player treatment process for all 3 images in this graphic, and that consistency is what makes the whole piece feel intentional and tied together. At the end of the day, it's not about following every setting exactly, it's about having a workflow that's flexible, repeatable, and built to adapt to whatever image you're working with. I've shown you just one treatment use case. Camera raw settings will always vary depending on the photo, but the workflow, that's a blueprint, and now it's yours. Like and subscribe if you learned something from this video. Drop a comment what you're going to use this for. Until next time.